Immigration. From my point, people are missing the mark on this topic. First, this country was built on the backs and sweat of immigrants. It's a collective hodgepodge of nations all in one, with the emphasis of English being the spoken language. Now, with that being said, this nation is supposed to be an ideal situation, but we all know it's because of bigotry and ignorance and racism, and we should learn from the past and truths that we've learned along the way. The treatment of immigrants has been lopsided, and I'm speaking from my eye view experience and from the experience of others, because on one hand, people from European countries have had an easier experience in transitioning over here, and that's not to say it's been a cakewalk, for I say this in comparison to others. It's like a pecking order, in that the wider you are, the better the treatment to the path of least resistance. So here's the order as I see it. You have white, Oriental, Latino, Arab, African. Now, whites don't mind as long as other whites are coming in, and in essence they don't mind the Oriental because they're considered smart, therefore looked upon as an asset. Latinos, now they're a mix of confusion for whites. On one hand they see the cheap labor, and on the other they scream of the possibility of crime, and overall Latinos are hard-working people just like anyone else. Arabs are also a mix of confusion to whites. They love the money that's brought in, and that applies to the Oriental too, but with the climate of terrorism, fear levels out evenly with the advent of money. Then there's the African, who is automatically considered poor, and the innate fear of violence that is a constant fear which permeates our society, and for those reasons whose path over here is the hardest. Now that the prevailing groundwork for white attitudes have been laid out, all other groups have those same types of fears as the white man, according to the racial food chain we subconsciously go by. Now, for instance, if you're Oriental, you most likely feel as if you're entitled above Latinos, Arabs, and Africans, yet not on the same level as whites. You subconsciously tend to look down on the aforementioned races, except white people, and the same goes for the other races, with the exception to Africans, because we're at the bottom. All this I say in generalized terms, and those listening and seeing this know I'm right. Since the late 1960s, liberalism has been the conduit of an explosion of social change in America, some good and some bad. And in that bad, it can and has gone way overboard when it comes to immigration. I love the premise and idea that we are the world's melting pot, but order has to be and needs to be in place. I like to look at things in simple terms. We have a census and we have laws. The census is the striking point of how much money is allocated to each state. But of course the money that is allocated is skewed perpetually because the census will be off significantly because of illegal immigrants, which means many things like roads being fixed will go lacking. Yet liberals go out of their way to appease illegals with a plethora of contingencies to help out Arab and Hispanic immigrants and illegal immigrants. With Arab immigrants, the system is their oyster because they can come over here and set up shop and be aided by the government along with various loopholes and not be taxed And an example of setting up shop is the hotel or motel industry that they are heavily involved in. Now they can come here for 6 months and go back to their native land and not be beholden to paying taxes here while still running a business over here, because what they do is rotate a family member in their place. And here's a thought: why does it seem like they're all named Patel? I'm just saying. Mexicans. They've been set up with many advantages as well, for they can be illegal with liberal lawmakers and not be touched, nor do they pay taxes. Now, this is where black and white people have an issue. And I mean about what I just mentioned on Arab and Mexicans. Whites more so with Mexicans because of taxes not being paid, and with blacks the issue is definitely with both for the reasons of entitlement and not paying taxes and jobs. This type of atmosphere fosters hate and contempt, and it didn't start with the Trump administration, because this powder keg has been decades in the making. Trump was put in office because of fear and because of an attitude of things needing to change. But anyone can be full of promise and full of something else at the same time. As for myself, I didn't vote for him, nor did I vote for Hillary. I voted for myself as a write-in, but I will say Trump caught my attention on immigration because it desperately needs to be fixed. But Trump dropped the ball on it because he's illiterate and incompetent as a man of standards and as a politician. He foolishly attacked all Mexicans, giving the impression of all being criminals, and of course the left ran with it, and conservatives were stupid as well for not admonishing Trump on that. Oh, and some tried, but not enough. And though Trump never said anything outwardly to black people, they took it to heart as a personal attack towards them. And again, on Trump's behalf, a weak and half-hearted attempt to nip that scenario in the bud. But I digress. Look what Trump should have said. Look, what Trump should have said is basically what all have failed to say and do to rectify immigration. And it's quite simple for those who are here and working. They are to be issued, or should be issued, a social security number so that they can put it in the system, and start paying their fair share. Because liberals are quick to say the rich paying their fair share. Well, how about illegal immigrants too? Also, issuing social security numbers to make all over here legal, because breaking up families is a travesty and an injustice and potential plight to the American society moving forward. Because think about this: when government officials such as ICE break up families by sending the parents back to the country they came from, yet have children stay here, in most situations is potentially a breeding ground for future gangbangers. These kids will be withdrawn, sad, and angry because of the loss of their parents or siblings for that matter. Therefore, they'll lash out and look for love and attention in the wrong places. Mark my words, for there will be a spark in crime in the coming years if this matter isn't rightfully resolved. Be sure to subscribe, and when you leave a comment, no profanity, and check me out at Fantline.com. I'm Marvin Fant. Enough said.